Travis mentioned, a recent study, and this happens at the end of every year. There's always these national studies about where are the trends in contact center. And we have gone from a cycle of the technological age to now the focus is really based on the customer satisfaction and the customer experience. And what is interesting is when I talk to different businesses and the folks that I meet throughout my travels, my job at Inflow and my previous employers, is that what I'm seeing, at least in the last 3 years, the contact center trends are definitely no longer seen as just a cost center. Some of the more progressive contact centers that we work with are forward thinkers. They, in fact, are looking at their contact centers as profit centers. When we work with our clients, we work with them at the C level all the way down to the user level, and most of those folks are now understanding the valuable circle of their contact center relates back to profits. It's about customer perception. It's about customer loyalty. And what I'll say is that current trend or not, I've always had very strong opinions about the customer, and from my own personal experience, the customer experience has always mattered. And today more than ever, people are focusing on the customer experience because they understand it affects all facets of their business, especially customer perceptions of their value. Also, customer loyalty to your value if you're running a business or contact center. And lastly, the customer's desire to continue doing business with you is going to be predicated on their experience they have with you. My own personal experience, I have no problem dropping a vendor of choice as a vendor based on the experience I have with them, because I figure there's somebody else out there that's going to provide me more bang for my buck, and that's what I expect. So I'm one of those customers who expects a lot. With technology today, you're going to find more and more clients are going to be expecting more. Now, what's interesting to me is that despite the advances in technology, most businesses that I encounter still languish behind big data. That's not to say they don't have data, they absolutely do. But what they're languishing behind is the ability to intersect the data with their customer service experience, especially in the contact center. Today, everything is about data. Everyone understands the Google story. They've lived and breathed and continue to live and breathe and make trillions of dollars on data. So I'm talking about and proposing that we use that data in conceptual ways for your contact center. In fact, consider this, the concept of big data is not new. IBM mainframes had been around for years, and going back to my history about 20 years ago when I worked for a developer, a vacation ownership developer in Southern California, I got my hands on this application, to go back to an example I referred to a few moments ago. This application was called Database Assistant, a very nimble application. However, everyone used it in an IVR fashion to look up account information and to read it back to the client. But we had a very active financial services group. I came up with the fact that at that point in time, why don't we look at the account balance, and before we give them any information about their account, if they're delinquent, we send them right to a financial officer who can handle their delinquency. At that point in time, people thought that was amazing. But fast forwarding to today, I still see so many contact centers that are not really relishing that opportunity and putting it to good use. So the concept of big data is not new, and what I'll say is every business has a common platform and availability of information. Number one, we know every business out there today to do business must have a communications platform. And we know that communications platform at some level has data associated to it because almost everybody looks for reporting. Secondarily, almost everyone has a CRM or CRM-like application or process. Now, in this example here, I'm using CRM very loosely. I'm aware that people have homegrown applications, web-based applications. My reference to CRM is just synonymous with a place where I store information about my customers. And fast forwarding today, those progressive environments are now starting to use heavy business analytics applications through BI intelligence. This goes from marketing groups, analytics groups, anyone that really wants to find out what is the health beat of their business. The one piece I don't see a lot of folks using is leveraging that in the contact center space. The key underneath all these applications and almost every CRM, and remember I'm using this term very loosely, is a database. The database, in my opinion, is the key to breaking the cycle of the ACD rhythm. And I'm going to give you some specific examples of what we have done for some of our clients. Add to that, many businesses today use BI applications. If I go to healthcare, financial services, one of my primary questions is, do you export your data for other purposes? 9 times out of 10, they will say yes. And while they may not be using a traditional BI application, they're certainly using a database structure to manipulate and to massage that data to really understand their customer and their business. The good news is having access to the database opens up an almost infinite array of possibilities. Things you can do with a true-false question to evaluate what is my next step with this client or this caller. Especially and most importantly is the ability to differentiate your business from your competition, because if you're not thinking about this, your competition likely is. And we run into plenty of them where we give them helpful hints and put them on the pathway to achieving great customer success using their data. So let's talk about ACD and IVR. Now, my title here, Dynamic ACD, is a little bit sort of redundant because we know ACD is dynamic by nature. But what I'm really going to be talking about is creating responsive intelligence within your ACD and IVR process using your data. So are we still static? I always look to that point of when a client tells me about their contact center, walk me through your process. If I'm calling your 800 number or local number, tell me what's going to happen to my call. 9 times out of 10, they have a tree-based call routing system or auto attendant. And this is pretty standard, and that's not to say you will do away with this completely. However, there are certainly options to make this a little more dynamic. Most folks absolutely recall, thank you for calling my business. For customer service, press 1. For tech support, press 2. For sales, press 3. Those are standard and they've been around for years and years. However, leveraging data, you can create responsive intelligence with information you already know about your customers. This includes some basic information about who they are, where they come from. It could be a language preference. Predominantly, you'll see language preferences in healthcare at some point. And if you're not asking them directly about language preference, I'm sure you're presenting an option that says for assistance in English, press 1. If you'd like assistance in Spanish, press 2, or some other language. But the fact that you posed the question and that your client is making a choice means you've at least at some point had the opportunity to make a change for the better. You know why they call you. In fact, when you go through an IVR process and they're calling for customer service, sales, or support, you get a sense of why they're calling. And once the call actually takes place, you get more information, hopefully from the agent's desktop where they're indicating a disposition code or a wrap code or reason for the call. Those are the reasons why your clients are calling you. To gather information while it's happening in real time is another process that you can deploy to help you gain really great strategies for customer experience. You also know something about your non-customers, especially for marketing. Marketing gurus love the circle of data. So anytime you have callers calling you, even if they're your non-customers, it's likely you may have some information. Now, what I don't want to paint a picture is that everything is 100% foolproof, but I will paint a picture of that leveraging information intelligently helps you craft a solution that's built on creative, responsive intelligence.